Sefer HaMarkol that's quoted in the Eliyahu Rabbah in Siman Tov Kuf Pei Aleph. The Sefer HaMarkol is a Rishon, according to most, a Talmud of the Rosh. And the Sefer HaMarkol says that Elul is Roshei Tevis, Ishle Re'ehu Umatanis Levyoin. So it's for another day to discuss the particular connection of Ishle Re'ehu Umatanis Levyoin to the content of Chodesh Elul, but I want to talk about the psukim in this week's Parsha about the mitzvah of tzedakah, which is has to do in a way with matanis le'evyonim. The pasuk says like this: Ki yiyeh b'cho evyon me'achad achecha ba'achad she'orecha ba'artzecha asher Hashem Elokecha noisen loch lo yisa'ametz es levavecha. You shouldn't harden your heart. V'lo yisikpoitz es yodcha. You shouldn't close your hand me'achicha ha'evyon, from your brother the evyon. So what does lo yisa'ametz es levavcha mean? Don't harden your heart. So we shall see that there are 4 different shittas in the Rishonim how to read this pasuk. The Ibn Ezra says lo yisa'ametz es levavcha ledaber al liboy dvarim tovim, that the sefer of the pasuk v'lo sikpoitz es yodcha, you shouldn't close your hand, is talking about the actual giving of the money to the oni. The ratio of the pasuk lo yisa'ametz, just listen 1 second, I'm going to close the window because there's a lot of noise over here outside. 1 second. The ratio of the pasuk lo yisa'ametz es levavcha is talking about not withholding from the ani dvarim tovim. And lefizeh, it's an independent lav l'chora. The sefer of the pasuk is a lav for holding back the money. The ratio of the pasuk is a lav for holding back dvarim tovim. So it also says the Rabbeinu Bachye on the pasuk. He says lo yisa'ametz es levavcha miledaber al liboy divrei tanchumim kedei lefaisoy. Va'amru Rabbi Seinu zechroinam levrache hamefaisoy bidvarim. Gemara in Bava Basra Daftes godol mikula. Lo yisikpoitz es yodcha. What does that mean? Lo yisisgor yodcha. Don't close your hands. Ki hu achicha v'hu evyon hatov l'chol davar. Now you know in Bava Basra over there on Daftes, Tosfos' maskana is that the maila of mefaisoy is even without giving money. The Meiri says that that's when you can't afford to give money. But in Tosfos it would seem that even if you could afford to give money, the pius bidvarim in itself has value. Lefiza, I mean, it's pashut that if the lav of lo yisa'ametz is referring to holding back dvarim tovim, words, pleasant, positive words, so it's an independent lav and it's not connected with lo sikpois et yodcha. But even if we say that the pius, the bidvarim, has to go together with the giving of tzedakah, but if I do give the tzedakah and I am not mefayez bidvarim, and I'm able to be mefayez bidvarim, I'm over on the lav of lo yisa'ametz es levavcha, even though I was mekayim the mitzvah of tzedakah and I wasn't over on the lav of lo yisikpoitz es yodcha. So that's how it comes out l'chora according to the Ibn Ezra and according to the Rabbeinu Bachye. Rashi on the pasuk says lo yisa'ametz yesh lecha adam. Yes, so who's the noise in the background? Do we know? They're not clear. Okay, so the Rashi says yesh lecha adam shemitzta'er im yitein im lo yitein lo kach nemar lo yisa'ametz. Yesh lecha adam shepoishet yodoi v'koifza lo kach nemar v'lo yisikvitz. And the sources in the Sifri of Anort not so clear what this means, but one thing is clear, l'chorah, that the Aveira of loy sikpoitz es yotcha is holding back from giving tzedakah, and it doesn't, we can't say that you're only over on this lav if you opened your hand and then you closed it, right? In spite of the fact that we use this lashon yesh lecha adam shepoishet es yodai v'koifza, avada the lav is not dependent on first opening your hand and then closing it. And Memela, it would seem that huadin, the lav of loisa ametz es levavcha, is not a lav on being pained for the giving of tzedakah. As Rashi says, yesh lecha adam shemitztarim yitein lo yitein. It's for the not giving, but the Torah is giving us two types, two hechetimtzes of not giving. Some people are mitzvah from giving, and that's why they don't give. Some people already are about to give, and then they hold back from giving. But l'chorah, according to Rashi, according to the Sifri, both halves of this pasuk are talking about the giving and not giving of tzedakah, because Rashi says in the Reishi, yesh l'chodem shemitzta'im yitein lo yitein. So we're not talking over here about an independent issue of talking pleasantly to the honey. We're talking about not giving tzedakah. We're mentioning two ways that people hold back from giving tzedakah. The Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvahs, Lo Yisase Reish Lamed Beis, says his hironu shelo limnoya tzedakah v'harchava me'achenu me'ha'ev yoinim asher neida la'aniyim, that we know them to be poor, v'yicholteinu lahachzik bohem, we have the ability to support them. V'hu amoroi lo yisa'ametz es levavcha v'zeh azhora miliknois midas hakilus v'achzorius. This is an hazara not to acquire the midah of stinginess and achzorius and cruelty. Now the Rambam only counts one lav, and he only brings the pasuk of loy, and he doesn't bring the pasuk of loy sikpoitz. He only brings the pasuk of loy sa'ametz. And he defines the lav as sheloi limnoya tzedakah, not to hold back tzedakah. So that's, as I'm saying in the Sifri, that the pasuk of loy sa'ametz is talking about holding back tzedakah. In spite of the fact that we're mentioning this way of not giving, that way of not giving, yesh l'chodem shemitztarim noisen, yesh l'chodem shepoishet yodai v'koifza, but the untish teshura is that we're talking about not giving tzedakah. And so it's also mavur in the Rambam in Hilchos Matnas Aniyim, Perik Zayin Halacha Beis, the Rambam says, "V'chol haroye oni mevakesh v'helim einov mimenu v'loy nasan leitzedakah oy ve'beloy saseh shenema v'loy sa'ametz es levavcha v'loy sikpoitz es yodcha." So he brings both the Reisha and the Sefer of the pasuk as a lav for not giving, and so also in the Smag loy saseh reish beites only counts one lav, and he brings the Sifri that loy sa'ametz es levavcha and loy sikpoitz es yodcha are both talking about withholding the money. However, the Bahag does count loy sa'ametz and loy sikpoitz as two lavim, the lav kuf tzadik aleph and kuf tzadik beis. In other words, the Smag counts one lav, but the Bahag counts two lavim, loy sa'ametz and loy sikpoitz. And we need to know why. So it's true that the Ibn Ezra and the Rabbeinu Bachye learn in Pshutei Shel Mikra that loy sa'ametz es levavcha means that you hold back from talking nicely to the oni. And according to this, avada loy sa'ametz es levavcha is an independent lav, and loy sikpois es yodcha is an independent lav. But it is a shtickle interesting that the Bahag should drop what's mafurish in the Sifri, that both halves of the pasuk are talking about withholding tzedakah, and follow the Pshutei Shel Mikra. I think it's mistama more pasha to say that the Bahag is going l'shitosoi. The Bahag is going l'shitosoi. That he holds, and many Gaonim hold, that even when the Muzhar is one, even if what the Torah is telling us not to do is one, if there's a ribuy of azharos, if there are two lavim that tell us not to do the same thing, we count each lav b'fnei atzmai. So therefore, even though the Bahag holds that loisa ametz and loisikpoitz are both talking about withholding tzedakah, like it says in the Sifri, but there are two lavim for withholding tzedakah, and they're counted as two independent lavim, because that is the shita of the Bahag b'chol mokim, that if there's two lavim for the same thing, we count them both. Whereas the Rambam, l'shitosoi and shorish tes, and the mitzvah loisase kufay and tes, that he holds that when the muzhar is echod, even if there are many azharos, we only count them as one. Therefore, the Rambam, since he's saying that loisa ametz and loisikpoitz are both referring to the not giving of the tzedakah, he only counts it as one. You know, Reb Shloime Ibn Gibirol, in his Minyan HaMitzvahs, he's nimshech b'derech klal after the Bahag, and he also counts it as two lavim. Mitzvah loisase mem gimel is velibcha loisa ametz, mitzvah loisase ayin ches, veloisik poitz kapcha. So the Rashbatz in the Zohar Horakia wonders about this, and he says, K'moishe bo har b'mitzvahs atzedakah, k'moishe nema b'mitzvahs asay, kach bo har b'azhoris al himona mimeno, v'kulon hein bois b'minyan echad bilvat, that we should count them all as one and not count them as many. He says, v'kvar kosav, v'libcha loisa ametz. He's upset at the Rashbag, at Reb Shimon Ibn Gibirol, that he counts them as two. He says he already counted v'libcha loisa ametz. Ubechloloi hu loisik bais etz yodcha hanichtav b'samuchloi. So this is why I'm saying that the Rambam actually, for that reason, obviously the Rashbag is following the opinion of the Bahag, that even if the Muzhar is Echod, if there are more than one Azhara for a Muzhar Echod, you count them as two. Whereas the Rambam, L'shitosei and Shorish Tes, that says that when the Muzhar is Echod, we don't count the many Azharos. Therefore, he counts the loisa ametz and the loisik poitz as one lav, in spite of the fact as one lav, Now in Ksubis Daf Mem Tesam at Beis, the Gemara says that Rava forced Rav Nosson Bar Ami, and he forced out of him Dalid Meis Zuzi Litzdok. So Tosfos over there says V'im Toimar V'heich Kofa Oisoi. Tosfos is wondering, how was he koifer for tzedakah? V'hoksiv matan schora b'tzido. For the mitzvah of tzedakah, the Torah promises a reward together with the mitzvah. The ksiv biglal adovar hazeh yivarechecha Hashem Elokecha. V'amrinon beperek kol habosor. The Gemara says in Chulin, Daf Kuf Yud, kol mitzvahs asay shematan schora b'tzida ein bezin shel mato muzharin alo. That even though Bezdin Shalmata are koife for kiyum mitzvahs asay, if somebody doesn't want to shake the lulav, we force him to shake the lulav. But a mitzvah that matan schora is kosov b'tzida, we're not koife. Frektoises tzedakah is the matan schora kosov b'tzida. So Tosfos says in the second teretz that b'tzedakah iketarti lavi loisa ametz v'loisik poitz. Now it's pashut l'chorah that Tosfos doesn't need two lavim in order to say his teretz. One lav would be enough, and that's how it says in Tosfos in Bava Basra, that even though we're not koife on a mitzvah asay shematan schora b'tzida, but if there's also a lav, we are koife. But Tosfos actually says that there are two lavim. So you see, once again, that Tosfos holds that both lavim are for withholding the money, because if the lav of loisa ametz would be referring to holding back divrei pius v'nichumim to the oni, then it wouldn't have a shayches with being koife on the giving of tzedakah. It's a totally independent issue. But often that we see, like we see l'chayre in Rashi and Chumash, and like it's mashma and the Sifri, that it's one. It's all about giving tzedakah. Nevertheless, Tosfos counts it as two lavim. And that's as Tosfos holds in the beginning of Tzmura, that when there's two lavim on one muzhar, you also count them as two. Okay, now, so we have divided two mahalchim in Loisa Ametz. One is that Loisa Ametz is talking about withholding dvarim toivim v'nichumim from the ani. And another pshat is that Loisa Ametz, just like Loisikboitz, is talking about withholding the money. There's another pshat in the Rabbeinu Yoina in the Shari Tshuva, Shai Gimel Ois Cotton Lamed Vav. He says, Huzharnu bazeh lohosir minafsheinu midas ha'achzorius v'lintoya bo nitei ne'emonim. To plant in our nefesh, nitei ne'emonim. How would you translate that? I mean, nitei ne'emonim. Durable saplings. Okay, that's what my brother says, Reb Chaim Yisrael. So he said, but to get rid of midas achzorius, we all understand what that means, and to plant within ourselves the opposite of achzorius, and that's heim harachamim v'hakasodim hanayemonim. K'moshe kosav alachta b'drochav ba'avur ki min ha'efsher shelo yikbeitz yodav yitin asoni. It's possible that a person does give the money to the ani, v'loy mi derech rachmanis, but he doesn't give it with the emotion of rachmanis. Ke'inyan shenemar, like it says in Mishle Yud Beis, v'rachamei rishoyim achzori. That rishoyim, even with the having rachamim, it's not real. They're really they are really achzorim. Al kein kosav loisa ametz es lavovcha. So the Rabbeinu Yoina says that if one gives tzedakah, but he really dreads it, he doesn't want to give the tzedakah. Yeah, so he's not over on like sick b'tzas because he actually gave the tzedakah. But if he doesn't do it with genuine rachmanis, he's over on the lav of loisa ametz es lavovcha, because the lav of loisa ametz es lavovcha is a azhara to be meisir minafsheinu, the midah of achzorius, and to plant within ourselves the midah of rachamim. The oynish for achzorius ra umar. The oynish for achzorius is bitter. Kashi is ba'er b'shar ha'achzorius be'ezakeh. V'omru zechronim levrocha v'nosam l'chor rachamim v'richamecha v'richamcha v'hirbecha kol ha'merachim al abriyas merachim olav v'neshamayim. So it's mefurish in the Rabbeinu Yoina that even if somebody opens his hands and gives the tzedakah, if he is not giving it b'derech rachmonis, he's over on the lav of loisa ametz es levavcha. According to the Rabbeinu Yoina, it's pashut that it's an independent lav. There's a lav of loisik poits, which is a lav for not giving tzedakah, and there's a lav of loisa ametz, which is a lav for giving tzedakah, but with a feeling of achzorius and not with a feeling of rachamim. So the Rabbeinu Yoina is saying a big chiddush that the mitzvah of tzedakah, besides for the fact that we are commanded to fill the needs of the ani, there's also a choivas halavavis to acquire the midah of nedivos, of generosity, of kindness, of rachmanis, and that's what the lav of leisa ametz is talking about. Now in Ovis Perik Hey Mishnah Yud, we have a Mishnah that says arba midas ba'odam. There are four types of people. Hoimer sheli v'shelcha shelcha, mine is mine and yours is yours. Zoi midah beinoinis. That's average. The yesh oimrim zoi midas doim. Others say that saying that mine is mine and yours is a midas sdoim. So you know, the Rabbeinu Yoina over there writes like this: that this person that says shali v'shulcha shulcha einoy nedivleiv, he's not a generous person. However, v'hu toiv shesoyne matonis. At least he has that quality that he's a soyne matonis. He says shulcha shulcha, I don't want yours either. I want to keep mine, but I don't want to take yours. So therefore, the Tanakama considers this midah to be average, a midah beinonis. But asks the Rabbeinu Yoina the Kosher, she'ech yoimru she'zoi midah beinonis. How could the Tanakama say that this is a midah beinonis? B'haloi hamoinea atzmai militein tzedakah roshe gomeru. Somebody that holds back from giving tzedakah is a roshe gomer. So if he says shali shulcha shulcha, that's average. I mean, he's a roshe gomer. According to the Yesh Oimrim Zu Midas Doim Asi Shaper, because Shteitak in Yecheskel Hine Ze Hoya Avoin Zdoim Achoisek But how could the Tanakhama say that somebody that says Shali Shali v'Shalcha Shalcha is a Mida Beinonis? He's a Rosh Gomer. He's not giving tzedakah. Says there Rabbeinu Yonah Lahacha Ma'iri b'Noisen tzedakah miyiras Hashem. He does give tzedakah, and he gives it out of fear of the Rabbeinu Shalom. Ach b'tivoi hu kili. B'teva, he's a stingy person. He doesn't want to give. He gives it because he has to give, but he doesn't want to give. Well, so this is the Shali Shali Shalcha Shalcha. It's not somebody that actually keeps his for himself. He actually gives it, but he feels Shali Shali Shalcha Shalcha, and that's the L'chein. Acha shemachzik yad oni ve'evyon malonu v'letivoi. The Tanakhama holds big deal. He holds that Shali Shali. It should be that I should hold on to mine, but he gives in the end of the day. So it's a Mida Beinonis. He's not a great man, but he's not terrible. V'yesh oimrim ki midas doimi v'shor shora ma'oid kivin shebetivo kili. That since in his nature he's stingy, that defines him as mida, as somebody that has the midas doim. But if he doesn't give tzedakah b'chlal, kulam l'moed the Rosh Gomeru v'zu midas doim. Now, l'chayre, according to what the Rabbeinu Yonah himself says in Shari Tshuva, that even if you don't hold back the tzedakah, if you give shaloi b'derech rachmanis, you're over on the lav of loisa amitzes levavcha. So what did the Rabbeinu Yonah answer? That he had a problem. Why do we consider him Beinoini if he's not giving tzedakah? He's a Rosh Gomer. So he said he is giving. But he's giving how? He's giving, he doesn't want to give. He gives, but he doesn't want to give. L'chayre, if somebody gives and he doesn't want to give, he's still a Rosh Gomer, because the Rabbeinu Yonah said in the Shari Tshuva that there's a lav of loisa ametz es levavcha, which is for someone that gives not with a genuine feeling of rachmanis. So the Chayre, the Pshat is like this. The lav of loisa ametz is talking about somebody who hardens his heart in order not to acquire the midah of nedivus through his giving. Because naturally, the more a person gives, he develops a character of nedivus. And the ma'ametz es levavai, for actions that he doesn't allow himself to become generous. Loisa ametz es levavcha. But the Mishnah is talking about somebody, as the Rabbeinu Yonah says, who has that nature. And he's not harving on changing his nature. He's not working on becoming stingy. And he's not working on holding on to his stinginess. He's just not working on becoming generous, and that's the machlokes of. So he's not over on the lav of loisa ametz es levavcha, because he's not being ametz es levavcha. He just gives without rachmanis, and that's the machlokes of the Tanakhama and the Yesh Oimrim. If this is a midah beinonis or it's a midas doim, because in this case he's not over on the lav. The emes, it's mefurish like this in the Yereim. In the Yereim Simon Reish Beis, he says v'loisa ametz es levavcha. The sick points, the Yoresim Elokechotziva Akosiv Leheyoiseinu Rachmonim, the Parshas Re'eh Onoichi, the Ksiv Lois Amitzes Levovcha, Pirush, Eitzel Imutz Halev, Muzer Odom, Kisheliboy Noitel Lerachim, Shelo Yosef Liboy. When there is an awakening of Rachmanis in my heart, I shouldn't turn back. I shouldn't turn back on my Rachmanis. This is the hardening of the heart, meaning I really do feel for the guy, but I tell myself, you know what? I shouldn't really be giving it. V'loya ametz lahosev harachmanos. The Yereim says mefurish that the lav of loisa ametz is loyis ametz lahosev harachmanos. Va'alav va'azhora zois yidvu kol advoyim v'yachziku toivel ramoim. Because since there's so many people that don't really deserve the tzedakah and they come and ask, so it redeems us from being over on this lav. Then he says, says, Tanya, yesh l'chodem shepoishet yodei v'chayze v'koifza. So it's mevur lahedya that the lav is for imutz halev. So I'm saying the Rabbeinu Yonah in the Shari Tshuva is talking about somebody that's ma'ametz es levavai. The Rabbeinu Yonah in the Mishnah in Ovis is talking about somebody who is not working on developing the midah of nedivus, and he gives without a feeling of rachmanis, but he's not hardening his heart. He's not hardening his heart. The Yereim and the Smag only count both these lavim as one. And that's l'chora a pella, because they're saying that loisa ametz is a azhara for hardening your heart. So l'fizeh, it's l'chora an independent lav. And it's not included in the holding back of tzedakah that was nesar in loisik b'etzetz yotcha. How could this be one lav? So l'chora, these rishonim hold that you're only over on the lav of loisa ametz if you practically don't give. And memela, it's considered a muzhar echad, which is the meniyas hanasina. Even though you could be over the lav of loisa ametz without loisik points, but you could have loisik points without loisa ametz. So l'chore, it's two shemos in the muzhar. But there's a longer shmuz by Rav Perlo in the Sefer HaMitzvahs, in the Shita of the Rasag, that he holds that if one lav can't be without the other, it's only counted as one. And Memela, according to this, we can maybe understand how it's counted as one. But Homnia, that according to what's mavur in the Shari Tshuva, that the lav of Leisa Amitz is even when you give, Shaloi B'derech Rachmanis. So just like you can have a Leisik points without the Leisa Amitz, you can have a Leisa Amitz without the Leisik points. Because you're not over on the Leisik points because you gave the money, but you're over on the Leisa Amitz, and Avad should be counted as two. So I want to just say one more thing. The Smak in Simen Chof says, Shaloi la'ametz levavoi militein tzedakah. K'diksiv loisa ametz v'loisik points. Pirush, kfitzas yodayim. What is kfitzas yodayim? Shalo yoimar im etein pruta la'oni lo yehei karni sholem. Mutav shaloyetem. He shouldn't say, I'll lose my principal. If I'll give to the oni, I won't have my money. And therefore I shouldn't give. That's the loisik points. Loisik points is yotzta. And what's loisa ametz? Loisa ametz is shalo yoimar ma lonu l'sayeh leploini. Why should we help this guy? If he would want, he would get himself a job. He would make more than he needs. Talmud loimar loisa ametz sha'afila atonoisein mehamachshava azois. That even if you practically give the guy tzedakah, but you're thinking this, that let him go get a job. He really doesn't have to come on to tzedakah. You're over on loisa ametz. So the Yereim is saying clearly that you're over on the lav of loisa ametz, even if you're giving, as long as you're giving with this thought. And nevertheless, the Yereim counts loisa ametz and loisik points as one lav. I mean, and this is not the Yereim, by the way, this is the Smak. Yeah. So I say like this. There's another Nakud over here in the Smak. He differentiates between two different machshavas that the giver could have. One is, he says, Im etein pruta la'oni lo yehei karni sholem. I will lose my keren, I will lose my principal, I won't have my money, and therefore I shouldn't give. And he has it, and that machshava he puts into the loy sik points. But there's another machshava that he puts into the loy sa'ametz, and that is ma lonu l'sayeh leploini. If he would want, he would get himself a job, and he would make more money than he needs. So now, the first machshava is not a machshava that's a lav. Only if your bepoil don't give tzedakah, your koifes es yotcha, you're over. But the machshava itself that I don't want to give because I don't want to lose my money, that machshava is not a lav. Whereas the machshava, why doesn't he go get a job? That is a lav. So the pshat is like this, because the machshava of im etein pruta la'oni lo yehei karni sholem is not a machshava of cruelty. It's a machshava of preferring myself to him. It's a machshava of being stingy, but it's not cruel. I mean, all it is that I want the money for myself. But the second machshava, which is ma lonu l'sayeh leploini, im hoya roitze, hoya maviach yoyse mitzorcha, it's not a machshava about that I need the money for myself or I want the money for myself. It's I'm against the whole concept. I mean, why should I give tzedakah? I mean, let him go get a job. And that's why in the second machshava, I'm not even saying why should I help him. I say why should we help him? Ma lonu l'sayeh leploini. Because it's not a personal thing. It's a shita. I mean, people shouldn't be giving tzedakah. because the recipients don't deserve it. It's not because we should keep it for ourselves. It's because the recipients don't deserve it. And that we consider a midah b'achzoris. And that the Torah asks with a lav of loisa ametz es levavcha. So the pshat is that lefizeh. So be'emes, we have to know, how did Chazal know that loisa ametz es levavcha is this machshava, that the makabel is not right to be makabel, and not that the noisin is ma'ametz es levavi, not to lose his own money. So we have to say that imutz halev, the hardening of the heart, it really means something that's not natural. In other words, avada, it's natural that a person should want to keep the money for himself. That's not an imutz halev. Imutz halev is the developing a shita that the aniyim shouldn't be getting money. That's imutz halev. That's imutz halev. In any case, there are 4 shitas in the Pirush Halav of Loisa Ametz and Loisikboitz. The Ibn Ezra and the Rabbeinu Bachye hold that the lav of Loisa Ametz is about holding back good words, and the lav of Loisikboitz is talking about holding back tzedakah. The Shitas Rambam is that they're both talking about holding back the nesin of the tzedakah, and so it seems in the Yereim and in the Smag. The Shita of the Rabbeinu Yoina is that Loisa Ametz is talking about somebody that gives, not b'derech rachmanis, and loisikboitz is about not giving. And the Shittas HaSmak would seem that also the loisa ametz and also the loisikboitz are talking about somebody that gives shaloi b'derech rachmanis. But it depends with which machshava he's not giving. In any case, we see that the according to everyone, the mechuven in the mitzvahs tzedakah is not just to fill the needs of the recipient of the needy, but it's behemoth also to acquire the midah of nedivus. As we see, according to the Rambam, that he says that in spite of the fact that the Rambam says that these lavim if you're not giving, but nevertheless, the Rambam says it's a azhara miliknois midas hakilus v'achzorius, that the azhara is not to become stingy. It's about developing a negative character, even though the Rambam says that the lav you're only over if you don't give. In the Rabbeinu Yoina it's mavur that if you're not mishtadel consciously and mechaven to acquire the midah of nedivus when you give tzedakah, according to one man da'amar, it's just a midah beinoinis, and according to the other man da'amar, it's a midah sdoin. And in this context, it's worth mentioning the Maharal in Parshas Mishpatim on the pasuk im kesef tal ve'esami chof aleph that says yesh lefarish mashe kosav loshin im afagav dechoyvehem. We say that im kesef tal ve'esami, lending money, is a mitzvah. So why does the pasuk use the term im? So he says mipnei shem yaseh meichoyva, because if a person actually lends money, but he does it as an obligation, ki'ilu mekayim gzeiras melech, ein hadavar l'ratzon l'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's not what the Rebbeinu Shalom wants. V'tzorich she'aseu mertzoynoi. He should do it because he wants to do it. V'oz k'sheyaseh mertzoynoi hu merutzeh. So the Maharal says that somebody that lends somebody money because it's a mitzvah, he's not really doing the mitzvah properly. The Torah wants you to lend money as if it's not a mitzvah. And that's why the Torah says, im kesef tal ve'esami. Because what's merutzeh, he says, k'sheyaseh mertzoynoi. But if he's ki'ilu mekayim gzeres hamelech, ein hadavar l'ratzon l'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. No, the yemei elul are yemei rotzoin, as we know. Ma, or yishoinim, berotzen, afachrenim berotzen. This is a time when the Rebbeinu Shalom is megala his rotzen to us. It's a time that we need to be megala our rotzen towards him, to parallel the rotzen ha'elyon. And that's doing what we need to do, not just because we need to do it, but attaching our inner rotzen, lasois, ritzoinoi, kiritzoincha. And I wish you all a guten Chodesh and a guten Shabbos.